Hello everyone and welcome to the Fundamental Elements of Public Speaking workshop. So if you haven't already, there is a workbook for this session, and if you would like to, you can get that up. It is optional, but all of the activities do follow along as we go. So if you haven't seen them on social media already, let's meet the mentor team.
So hi everyone, it's really nice to see you all on the call today and I hope you really enjoy it. So we're just going to start by introducing everyone as Chloe said, and I'm just going to introduce the supporting adults. So hi everyone, I'm Mariam, I'm a volunteer in East London and the Young Trustee for St John. I was previously the chair of the London and South Youth Forum and I used to do debating and public speaking competitions when I was young, so that's how that kind of ties into this project. And I'll be working with Krish. So Krish is a DYO in Surrey, so that's the London and South region, and he's brilliant at presenting. He's an award winner of the Diana Award and the Sovereigns Award, and he's previously been on the Regional Youth Forum for London and South, and he's also translating our first aid videos into different languages, so an incredible person to be having on this team. We also have Emma Jane, who's in the background today, so she's doing all the stuff behind the scenes. Emma Jane is our National Youth Participation Lead and is an incredible person who manages a lot of different projects. At the moment, she's doing the Give an Hour project. So young people and adults can sign up for support or to give help on personal statements. I'll put a link in the chat in just 1 second. And Everything Youth Voice is Emma Jane. And I'll pass you over to Fatima, who will introduce everyone else.
Hi, yes, my name is Fatima. I've been a cadet for I think 6 years. I've aged out now. I was Cadet of the Year for South London in 2019, which I then joined the Regional Youth Forum, London South Regional Youth Forum. I then became chair of that throughout the 2020, basically, and then now I'm a Regional Youth Development Officer for South London. And I'll pass on to Chloe Ann.
So unfortunately, two of our mentors couldn't join us tonight because they had other commitments. So Shana will be mentoring for West, and Shana is a public speaker for mental health advocacy. So she goes to schools and she talks about how schools can embed positive mental health strategies, and she also advocates for youth voice. And then Maddie is a District Cadet of the Year from Bristol, Avon and Somerset. She's on the NHS Youth Forum and she has a lot of experience public speaking about public health. So over to Ellie May, you can introduce yourself as the mentor for East.
Hi, I'm Ellie May. As Chloe said, I'm the mentor for East Region. I'm currently a District Youth Officer for Suffolk, but I was the District Cadet of the Year for Suffolk in 2020 and 2021, which meant I also helped chair the District Youth Forum in Suffolk and sat on the Regional Youth Forum. I also done Youth Voice with my sixth form in my high school, and then I also am the Young Ambassador for the British Isles for the Lions Club, which has involved a lot of public speaking as well. So I'll hand over to Phoebe.
Perfect, thank you. Hi guys, I'm Phoebe. So currently I chair the London and South Regional Youth Forum, but I've recently become an adult in St John, so I've been in St John for about 9 years now, and I've done a few different public speaking things. I was fortunate enough to go to South Africa with St John in 2020, and I was on the competition team for International Cadet Competition, and that involved public speaking as part of a team about diabetes and global health. I was also fortunate enough to be a finalist in the CVQO Westminster Award this year. I've also been Lord Lieutenant's Cadet in Hampshire, where I was from, but I'm now in South London for university, and lots of other fun public speaking opportunities that I've been involved with through school and my medics club.
And then finally, I'm Chloe Ann and I am the event organiser for this competition. So my job is to make sure that the event goes ahead. So if you have any questions about the regional and national competition, please don't hesitate to email me. And I will hand you over to Fatima for the workshop.
Yeah, so throughout the workshop today, there's a couple of things we're going to touch on. So we'll start off with the benefits of public speaking, then how to structure a speech and a presentation, then how to actually prepare for one, then the effective delivery methods and top tips, then pace, pitch, tone, smile, which we'll come back to, and then I'll pass to Chloe Ann to run you through how to enter the competition, and then a Q&A. Next slide. Okay, so benefits of public speaking. So I'm sure you all know this, but it will absolutely help build your confidence, no matter how small the audience is, for example. Improve your research skills and thus your critical thinking skills. Become a better listener, demonstrate knowledge and learning, and inform and encourage other people as well to get involved once they see how well you're doing and what you've learned from it. So how to structure your speech. Speeches are often written in 3 different sections, basically, just like you would a story. So the first section would be an introduction. This is where you want to establish your topic and what the aim of your speech is going to be about. Then the body, which would be your main point. So it is a lot more effective to have 1 to 3 main points that you can really develop and add more context to. And then your conclusion, which is where you recap all your main points again and reiterate what was the aim of your speech to your audience. The way you structure your sentences are important, especially where you choose to emphasize and what grammar you choose to use.
Okay, so now over to Ellie, if you want to talk us through how to structure a presentation.
So structuring a presentation, so you've got some key questions. So like, what is the aim of your presentation? It's quite similar to how you like what Fatima said before, how to structure a speech. You're looking at the same kind of aims, like who is the audience and what points do you want your audience to remember. And that also comes into emphasising certain points, how you structure your sentences and how they come across. And then using a visual element to present it, making it simple and engaging. You don't want it to outshine you. So when you're putting it across, making sure that it's quite simple and you've got the information you need on there, but that you can expand from it as well. When using a slideshow, try to keep the font size over 18. It makes it inclusive for some people. It makes it easy to read. Making it too small, it's like you have loads of small writing and you think there's so much more than there is, and it's like, it's really hard and it's like, ugh, no. So trying to keep it over 18. It's also helpful to have key points written on your presentation. Like I said before, you can elaborate on it and then do the rest verbally. So you've got your key points like bullet points, and then you can go further on it later. Things like memory, like images, and creating links, think symbolically. So put a photo on there instead of writing a whole paragraph, and then you can use that photo to then talk more verbally about what you're doing. Using links, you can add in videos and things like that as well. So following on from how to structure your presentation, so it can depend on the purpose of your presentation and how you can do them all differently. So choosing a structure can be challenging. Think back to the message you were sharing and who it is you're listening to. So it's kind of looking at your audience and the type of thing you're talking about and adapting it to that situation. A really big thing with this is trying to be adaptable, which is really a really important skill as well. So things to ensure are make sure you have a clear introduction, that they know what you're talking about straight from the start. Don't waffle on at the start. Making sure you've got a good body in there. So you've done your introduction, you're now going into like the main part of your presentation, what your presentation's about, and kind of filling in that whole big gap there. And then a conclusion to wrap it up, just something quite simple. You don't want to go on for ages, similar to an introduction, but just to wrap it all up. So there are 7 ways to take your presentation structure to the next level. I don't know if this is a link. Is it a link?
So all of these structures can be found on your workbook, and they show you the different ways you can structure your presentation, whether you want to tell a story or pitch an idea, and they can support you on finding out what the message is that you need to share and the best way to share it for the audience you are sharing the message to. Phoebe, do you want to talk us through this activity?
Perfect. Now, thank you. We're just going to have a go at an activity now, because sometimes it's better to put find my words. Sometimes it makes everything all sit right in your head when you put it together with an activity. I know that learning things myself, when I do it through an activity or I say something out loud to someone else, it cements things in my head and I understand things a lot more, especially visually. So we're going to think about presentations now. And these are some examples of some presentation slides. So I'm going to have a look in the chat. And can you tell us what you think would make these slides better? So you've probably done even better ifs in school. So have a think of a couple even better ifs for these slides we've got on the screen now. What do you think makes them not so good presentation slides? Or if you think they're really good, let us know. Esme, less writing, less information, Lucy said too. Yeah, they've got a lot of text on. I know that when I've been to lessons at school and lectures at university, a lot of text makes me automatically think I'm going to zone out and not understand it. So sometimes cramming a lot of text isn't always the way forward, even if you want to let the audience know a lot of information. So, you know, some presentations I've done in the past, I put the key points on the slide, but I don't put everything I'm going to say on the slide and I build around it out loud so they stay focused on what I'm saying. The larger font, Holly said, definitely. If these were full-size slides, I still don't know if the font would be big enough, so it's definitely something to think about. More pictures in some, definitely. Pictures is really helpful for a lot of people. People learn differently. I'm a visual learner. I know pictures would definitely help everything click with me, and some of these slides have too many pictures, so it's about getting that balance right. Heavy content, definitely. Make sure the pictures and text are not overlapping. Definitely, it's really hard visually when there's lots of colours and pictures and texts overlapping. Have a look through if there's any new ideas. There's too much writing on the top left and the font is too small. There's definitely a lot of information on the top left slide and I couldn't read that from here. And I probably didn't even be able to read it on a full screen when I was in a packed room at speech. Too much colour, definitely. Sometimes we think adding colour to a slide will make things pop or get people more interested, but sometimes too much colour can be overwhelming. Sticking to a few key colours and a theme throughout your whole presentation can make it flow a lot better and a lot easier for people to follow along with. It's not fun, definitely. So some of the colours you think are fun, but you can make, especially the boring slide, bottom left, even more fun with some pictures or diagrams just to catch the audience's attention. Choosing colours that don't clash with the font, I'd agree. Like I said, choose a colour scheme that sort of works together and try and stick with that. And a lot of people are saying perfect things. Hard to read images with images spread around. Too busy. Yeah, so you've really got this spot on, I think, with these slides. You really figured out what could be even better with these slides. And so we're going to go on to the next slide and see what's so good about some example slides. So can you let me know in the chat why this slide is so good? From some of the things we were talking about before, some of the things I gave you tips on. It's easy to read, definitely. There's 3 clear bullet points there. They're spread out. They're big enough to read. Oh, lots of things are coming in quickly. I have to scroll up. This is exciting when I have to scroll up in the chat very quickly. Oh, where have we gone to? Clear and tells you instructions, definitely, especially sort of the bold parts in each bullet point. They stand out to you, but it's not too much colour, not too much writing either. Has key points instead of chunks of writing. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Chunks of writing aren't always the best way forward when doing a presentation. Short and snappy info. That's a good way to put it. Try and keep your presentation slides short and snappy, and you can build around that with what you're saying. We've got loads of good things coming through in the chat. Theme colours are there, so you're listening to me. Perfect. Large font and a picture. Yeah, the picture really sort of illustrates what we're talking about in the treatment of animal and human bites, which is what the slide's all about. Clear points. Yep. You're all getting this spot on, so I really think you're picking this up. Important points are bold, definitely. And you've even put bold on your little message in the chat, so you've shown me you know exactly how to make something bold and stand out, because I saw that instantly. Uses St. John colours, always good if it's a presentation that's built for St. John. red makes it seem urgent. So yeah, the use of colours here is perfect because they haven't used too many colours, they haven't made it too busy, but the red on the call and ambulance really stands out at you. So you've all got some amazing ideas in the chat there. So I really think you've picked up on that. So thank you for getting involved with that. That was really exciting. And I'll pass over for the next slide.
When you guys are doing a presentation, if you choose to enter our competition, a resource that might be really helpful for you is Slide Carnival. So obviously we've all seen the St. John presentation templates, but on Slide Carnival they have lots of templates for lots of different themes. So if we go back to thinking symbolically, we can think about what sort of theme for our slides will fit the topic of our presentation. Over to you, Ellie.
Forgot to turn my microphone on. So picking a theme and sticking with it. So later on, Chloe will go over, or I can't remember who it is, I think it's Chloe, will go over the themes that you can pick from. But pick a theme, stick with it. Like we said earlier, with structuring a speech and a presentation, it's making sure that you say what is on track. So don't waffle on and go talk about other things. Kind of stick with what you pick to do. There's some amazing choices, so you won't need to worry about that. Making it look clean, easy on the eyes. So like the slides we just looked at that Phoebe went through with you, we looked at ones before that were overcrowded or too colourful or quite boring, and then you looked at the one which looks like it's just come straight out of a first aid manual, and it's really simple to understand. There's nothing going too much in it. It's really easy on the eyes, so you can look at it and your brain doesn't just like explode because there's so much information, so much going on. If you're making a PowerPoint for SJA, again, like Phoebe said, using or like you guys said in the comments as well, using the brand colours are really great as well. It just fits in with the theme of St. John and looks really good as well. They've all been made for you, so they look really good. So I'll pass on to the next person.
Yeah, so keep it to the point. Sometimes it's okay to have a lot of text on a slide, especially when explaining a specific thing, but avoid having massive chunks on text. It's a lot harder to read. So if you have to, try and break it down into smaller sections or boxes.
Perfect. So when rehearsing your presentation, it's actually a lot more important than I ever realised, especially when I was doing my first few presentations that I ever did. You might write something when you're writing your speech, until you say it out loud, you don't realise that it doesn't sound how you wanted it to sound. It doesn't sound quite right grammatically. I know grammar is something I struggle with when speaking, and knowing when to take pauses. And so rehearsing your presentation or speech is really important, and make sure you're confident in the order of it, as well as pauses and breaks. Sometimes like I said, you assume what you've written, and reading aloud to someone else can also be really helpful. I know that probably for many of you, that's often your parents or your carers. I know that my mum listened to a million presentations that I've done over the years, and although she might not have loved it as much as I did, she always provided a useful ear, because she'd hear things that I didn't hear. When you think you've written something and you say it, your brain sort of does something where you think you're saying what you thought you wrote, if you know what I mean. That sounds really complicated, but it's not actually as complicated. But my mum would say, oh, did you mean that there? Or, could you pause here? And it just is really a lot more helpful than you think, especially with timings, because you might expect a certain amount of text that you've written on a page to take a certain amount of time, and then you read it out loud with all your pauses and the gaps you want to leave and rhetorical questions, which is the question you kind of ask the audience but you don't expect a response from. So it can change your timings and things a lot. So I would say rehearsing your presentation is really important.
So asking for feedback again is so important. After you've rehearsed your presentation, and if you're Phoebe, you've done your presentation to your mum, make sure that Phoebe's making sure that her mum's giving her feedback on this, because what's the point on rehearsing it in front of someone if you're not going to ask what you can do better or what went well? So make sure you do self-reflections as well. This is really important. Like sometimes you can read it, you can stand in front of your mirror with your hairbrush as your microphone, and you're doing your presentation, and you listen, like I do it all the time, like you're reading through it and you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense, and do it again, and then you do it in front of someone else and they say, oh wait, and then they can say, oh, actually, you could add a pause in here, or you could use this word, or you've said this word so many times. So making sure you ask for feedback is like one of the best things you can do, and it's really going to help you, because once you do it so many times, like I remember when I was doing my presentation for the Young Ambassador Award, and I done my speech so many times in front of a mirror and in front of my grandparents and in front of my mum, and it got to a point where I think they were so bored that I gave them a notebook and was like, okay, just write it down and then I'll go through it later. And I would slowly start ticking things off of this notebook that they were telling me that I can do better on. And it gets to a point where there's nothing else you can improve on anymore. And I've worked that all back from getting feedback from people. But yeah, again, doing your self-reflection and development is so important, as well as getting feedback from others.
Yeah, and in terms of making notes, like you said, make notes. When doing a speech or a presentation, it's a lot better when you try and not to read off the slides or from your notes. It's a lot easier sometimes when you kind of go in with some key points that you've kind of gone over, and that's where practice comes in. Go over your key points, make sure you know them and you understand them so you can draw back on them. A lot of time, a lot of people fall into habit of memorising their whole speech, which then comes across very unnatural and almost like a script. So avoid that. Use flashcards sometimes, that's really useful. But once again, don't get into the habit of, a lot of people when they're nervous, they hold the flashcard up and completely cover their face and no one knows what you're exactly saying. So it's just about practice makes perfect here, I think.
Yeah, so following on from that, practice really does make perfect when it comes to timings, especially when through the public speaking experience that I've had. So if anyone's competed in Cadet of the Year competitions, it might be where you get the strict cut off at the end of your speech and you can't finish your speech even if you said it, you think you've got a really important point to say at the end. I know I've had that experience personally. And you know, often when you write speeches, you really try and have an impactful point at the end of your speech. And if you have to be strict on timings and you don't get to that point, it can really make a difference to the overall impact of your speech. So it's even more important when you're sort of competing in public speaking, but staying in line with your timings. Also make sure, I know personally, you've probably already told this, but I can ramble really quickly when I get really into something and my words come out at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. So when I try and sort of know how long each section should be, if I realise that I've gone slightly too fast in one section, it's a reminder for me to slow down for the next section, and so on and so forth. And you might be the other way around. When you're public speaking, you might go really nice and slow, but you feel like you're running out of time. So when you know your timings and you've practiced over and over, it leaves time for questions at the end and for your speech and the impactful points to sit with the audience.
So to follow on from those effective delivery methods and how to prepare, Ellie Mae, do you want to talk us through some of the best ways and the top tips for delivering a speech after we've done all that preparation, listening to mum, and having our tick sheets?
Yeah, so some effective delivery methods and top tips from us. So maintaining eye contact with different members of your audience. So depending where you are and how many people you're doing it in front of, make sure you're looking up and you're looking at them directly. I know a lot of people say, oh, like, what is it? Imagine they're naked and stuff like that. But look them in the eyes, you know, make sure that they know that you're feeling confident. I think if you can make eye contact with someone, it shows that like you're feeling confident, even if you're not at all. Use verbal cues. So it's different things that can help you remember what you're doing, but also showing when you're going on to the next point. So you can go and then this, or and therefore, and in conclusion, and things like that. Maintain a good posture. If you're sitting down and doing your presentation, don't like have your legs crossed and your arms crossed and look like you really don't want to be there and you're tired. If you're standing, kind of, sometimes it's really good to like walk around a bit. Don't just like march up and down where you are, but kind of making it look like you feel comfortable in your environment can be really great. Smile and act relaxed. Like I said, making it look like you're relaxed in your environment and smiling. Make it look like you want to be there, because I mean you're here, so hopefully that means that you want to come to the competition. So smile because you want to be here. It's a really great thing that you're doing. take time to think during your presentation. Like we were saying earlier, taking pauses within your presentation, give yourself some time to think. Don't just go in, because like I keep saying, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but if you just go straight into it, you end up talking about stuff that you don't need to be talking about. You go on and on and on. So take some time, calm yourself down, have a pause, and then go on to your next point. Pay attention to your volume. So depending what room you're in or where you are, or if you're on a screen, you don't want to be shouting at them, but you don't, because that can be quite patronising and quite scary, really. If someone was shouting at me whilst telling me about why they joined St John, I would be terrified. But you can also be too quiet. Don't whisper. They want to hear you. The people who you're going to be talking to really do care what you're talking about. So make sure your voice, you're amplifying your voice. You're making yourself heard. Youth voice. So and try and speak clearly. Like I said, they care what you're saying. They want to hear what you're saying. So making sure you're speaking clearly, like at appropriate volume to wherever you are. Ensure that ensure you're sharing a message that is clear and to the point. So this comes into planning as well. So when you're planning your speech or presentation and you're rehearsing it and you're making your notes and you're basically planning the whole thing, make sure that what you're doing is clear and to the point. So if you've got your flashcards with you, a lot of the time it's easier to do your bullet points and don't write too much on your flashcards, because if you do, you're kind of reading off it, which means your head's down, you're looking at that, and which then leads to you not being able to speak like at the appropriate volume, or you're not speaking clearly because your head's down on your flashcards, reading word for word off them. So having the bullet points on your flashcards will you can glance at it, you can look back up, you can make yourself comfortable, you can take a pause, and then you can make sure that in your head you can see what you want to say and that it's clear and to the point. And then the next one is, and the final one, be passionate and knowledgeable about your topic. So the team have picked some amazing topics that you can pick from for this, and they're so different. All of them are great. So pick one that you know something about. Maybe don't just pick something that you know nothing about and you're doing it because you think it sounds good. What's even better is picking something that you know about, or you know a little bit about. Obviously doing extra research is great as well, but don't do something you know absolutely nothing about, because that can make it even more daunting and make it harder for yourself. So pick something that you're passionate about, and there will be something on there for you, and there will be something that you know a bit about, but that will just help with everything. It will make you more relaxed, you'll be happy, so you'll be smiling. You'll feel confident, so you can do your eye contact. You will be speaking at a great level. You'll be speaking clearly because you're passionate and knowledgeable about your topic.
Perfect. So now's the perfect time for you guys to share some of your top tips from your public speaking experiences that you might have had already. So if you can give each other some top tips that we haven't spotted on before we carry on with the workshop, that'd be perfect. So you can always learn other things from other people. I know that I pick up something every time I hear a speech or a presentation. I'm like, oh, I could do that. I could change that. I'd be slightly better if I, I, like Ellie Mae was saying earlier, I don't walk around a little bit when I do my presentations. And I thought, you know what, I might do that in the future. So tonight, now's the perfect time to share some top tips. Let me just open up my chat.
I really loved a top tip from Henry earlier, and he said that in GCSE drama they record their pieces to watch themselves back. And I actually did this when I did GCSE drama, and it's a really useful tool because in the moment you might think that you are portraying the message that you want to portray and you're using the correct tone, but then when you watch it back, what you realize is that your body language might not match your facial expressions, or your pauses might be quite unnatural, so you can change your delivery based on the way that you see yourself, because even in the mirror in that moment you're still seeing it from the first person and not from the third person. So recording yourself and being able to watch it back is an amazing top tip, especially if you're rehearsing a speech that will be a live speech or presentation.
Definitely, I'd echo that. Might be a slightly different context, but I've had some university interviews where you've had to record yourself. And then for my next interview, well, I didn't have to record myself, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and watch back the ones I did record that are on my laptop. And I thought, oh, I look like I'm looking all around the room when I'm answering that question. So it was something I focused on in the next interview I did. So I definitely echo recording yourself if you can. Robert said, look calm. Definitely. I think that echoes some of the things that Ellie Mae said earlier. If you look comfortable in your position, even if you might be, I've done speeches and presentations before that I feel really nervous for because they're in front of really important people. But if you try and make sure you look calm, they don't know how you're feeling inside, and you can be really confident, and they can tell when you're confident in what you're talking about as well. Faye said, connect with the audience, definitely. So that maintaining that eye contact. I talked earlier about using rhetorical questions sometimes can work, sometimes doesn't work in your speeches, but it sometimes does work. So you can ask a rhetorical questions where you ask something of the audience, but you don't expect sort of them to reply back, but it's a chance for them to think about what you've said. So you could say at the start of your speech, what do you think is the biggest climate change issue facing our world at the moment? And then go into your speech. So you're not asking them for an answer, but it automatically gets them to think about what you're doing and what you're saying and talking about. Robert said, don't look stressed, definitely. Zenit said, enjoy yourself, 100%. This is all about enjoying yourself and enjoying the opportunity that you have to take part. So yeah, try not to. I know it's hard sometimes to get worked up in how nervous you feel about doing it, but sometimes you come away and you really enjoyed it. That's the best experience you could have had, no matter what happens during your speech. Henry said, engage with the audience and respond to any questions. Definitely. So if you have time, or if it's a presentation where you can answer questions at the end, take questions, do it. Because sometimes you can let them know how knowledgeable you are about your topic through the questions that they ask. Ellie Mae, would you like to have a look through some of the bits people have popped in the chat for their top tips and see what you think about them?
Yeah. So I liked one earlier from Amy, who said, if trying to persuade, try to use ethos, pathos, and I can never say, I think it's logos or logos. So using all three can build a great argument. So I actually like this one because I got to go and do a presentation to my MP at Westminster in September, and we were talking about debating and stuff like that in the education system, which was really great. And it was building up to me going to do this presentation, and he was telling me about this, and I was like, what on earth are you talking about? These are three words that, I've not heard of before. So Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, as I may get this completely wrong, but I think like ethos is talking about your credibility and your ethics. Pathos is like the emotions and feelings, and then logos is like the logic behind it. And they say like all three, having them together, can create a really good debate or a really good presentation and speech. And he's obviously an MP, and he was telling me, the last one, I can never say this right, logos is like the least important one. So your logic is the least important. And I remember sitting there thinking, wait, what? Like, how is that the least important? And he didn't really give me a good example either. I think all three are really great, but I saw that one and was like, yeah, I know about this one a bit. So don't be wordy. Yeah, I this is like something that I do all the time. You probably noticed already. I just go on, and I keep saying it like don't do it, but I do it all the time. I go round the houses trying to get to one simple point. If you can avoid doing that, do it. But I always have the intention of not doing it, and then I always go for it, like I just have as well. So yeah, talk from the heart and about what you believe in. There's so many great, I keep saying there's so many, you'll see them in a bit, but there's so many great topics that have been chosen that you can pick from, and being able to talk from the heart and about what you believe, like you will find something in there that is so great and you can just talk about, and you're going to be able to do all these top tips that we've given you and that you've given each other, and it will come so naturally and it'll be great for you.
I think one of my favourites is be yourself, because I know that something I really struggled with as a public speaker was being myself. So I really struggled with presenting myself in a way that was me, and not mirroring other people. You can mirror good practice, but you don't want to mirror their personality. So discussing things that I was passionate and knowledgeable about in a way that really said, this is Chloe Ann on a tin, was really important for developing me as a public speaker, because you can change yourself in so many ways, but at the end of the day, people in the audience are here to support you. They're not there to scare you. So if you can connect with them on a level by being yourself, then they're going to have so much more respect for the points that you're trying to get across and the knowledge that you're trying to provide them.
I definitely agree. I think one of my favourites might be fake it till you make it. So even though definitely you do want to be yourself, you always are being yourself. But I remember when I first started doing public speaking, I had absolutely no confidence in anything I was saying. And it was someone telling me to fake it till I make it. And the more confident you come across to yourself, the more you believe in what you're saying. And it 100% works. And you then go on to develop your career in public speaking, and eventually you'll feel comfortable on stage or on a screen or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. I've had similar experiences, and like Esme said, no one knows if you mess up. It's your speech, and only you know what to say. And I've definitely had that experience. When we were talking on diabetes, one of my public speaking experiences, I guess. We missed out a whole section, a whole chunk, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are they going to think? And then I was carried on. Obviously, I was still speaking. At the back of my head, I realised they didn't know I was going to say that. I'll just come back to it, and it doesn't matter. And I tried to show that I wasn't, not show that I'd thought about it or got too worried about it, because, like you said, they don't know what the order was meant to be. And fake it till you make it, in the same sense that pretend it was meant to be in that order. Pretend you were meant to throw a globe. It's a weird example, I know, but the globe was part of the presentation for context. Throw a globe across the stage at one point, and not another point, and point to a country at this point, and it doesn't matter, and they got the same message that they were going to get either way. So definitely. Has anyone else got any other favourites from the chat before we move on?
I've got a favourite from Grace. Remember, you're amazing, and no matter what the result, as you tried your best. I just think that's so nice, and it's something you should remember. I think when you're going into like public speaking, especially if it's like competitive or a competition or something like that, it's really hard to. This goes for anything really, for any competition, like if you're doing District Cadet of the Year competition, anything like that. I think it's really hard to remember that what you're doing to even be where you are, to even take part, is such an amazing and big thing. Like, you guys even coming to join this call is like great that you want to take part, and you're doing amazing just by being here. So no matter what the result is, if you end up taking part in the competition, no matter what the result is, you've done amazing to even get where you are, and you tried your best, and that's all that matters. So yeah, I really like that one.
Amazing, Chloe. Yeah, we're on to the next bit. Fatima, over to you.
Yeah, so pace, pitch, tone, smile. So we said we would come back to this. This, for me, are some of the, well, I guess 4 of the main key points when it comes to doing any form of public speaking, presentation, any event really. It always will count. So if we start off with pace. So pace is, I guess, how fast you talk, how slow you talk. So try not to rush. When we get really nervous, the adrenaline starts going, and all we want to do is just get through it, whether it's a slide or speech, and move on. However, take your time, speak clearly, make sure you're being understood. So whether that may be, if you've got a really difficult word, for example, practice it beforehand, make sure you understand it, make sure you know how to say it properly. Slow down and breathe. Don't speak too slowly, because you don't want to disengage your audience. So when you rush through it, no one knows really what you're saying. But if you go really slowly, you don't want to put anyone to sleep. Pitch. as individuals, we have a natural range in pitch. So pitch is how, I guess, high or low we talk naturally. It's really important when you do public speaking to maintain a natural pitch. So don't try and speak really high or don't try and speak really low. You just want to relax within yourself. If you try and change your pitch a lot throughout your presentation, it comes across very unnatural, and
I think Fatima may have frozen. So the point that she was trying to deliver is that if you change your pitch, it can come across really unnatural. And I actually have a story about this. So when I was first started public speaking, I had a really strong mixed accent. So those of you who have been in my sessions before will know that I live on the border of Wales, and I've also spent a lot of time living in Yorkshire. So that mix of an accent can be quite low pitched for a woman, and since my accent has changed again, but when I first started public speaking, I was very insecure about the pitch of my voice. So I would try and higher my pitch and I would try and be a lot higher in the things that I'd said, but that then had a knock-on impact on my volume. So I realized that my audience couldn't hear me and they couldn't actually hear the context of what I was saying because I was trying really hard to have a really feminine pitch and to fit in with all the other competitors at a competition. And that therefore meant that I scored the lowest in that competition because I was trying to be someone else.
yeah, I think it definitely plays a part in confidence as well. So tone now. So tone, this is to do with, well, it depends mostly on your topic. So allow your tone to reflect the message of the speech. A happy and excited tone may not be necessarily appropriate for harder hitting topics or something that might be more sensitive to other people. So your tone should change depending on that. So a lot of people, when they're nervous or when they're doing a speech, have a habit of being very monotone. Monotone is when we speak in one tone throughout the whole speech or presentation, which is it makes it very difficult for a lot of people to engage with what you're saying, as the first thing they'll notice is your tone. So you want to use a range of your tone. So if you're more upbeat about something or more excited, you'll higher your tone, and if it's something more difficult, something more sensitive, you would obviously lower your tone. Consider it almost like negatives and positives, really. Smile. So relax. Your audience are there to support you, and they want to hear what you have to say. So they're not there to be against you. They want to hear what you have to say. Breathe naturally. Just smile and enjoy it. At the end of the day, any form of experience in terms of public speaking or presentations, always an experience, and it's always something that you can learn from. So don't worry too much about it. Like Phoebe said, even if you miss this whole section, you can always go back to it, and I don't think anyone will ever mind. I'll pass it back now to Chloe, and he's going to go through how to actually enter the competition.
Okay, so how to enter the National Youth Public Speaking Competition. So there are a few elements to this on how to enter the competition. Firstly, fill in the entry form. Now, this entry form will be sent to anyone who signed up via the sign up form for this session. This will be sent to your email inbox. This will also be put on social media tomorrow. So these links will be distributed via email and via social media. So you fill in that sign up form, and then after you have filled in the entry form, after you've filled in the entry form, we will send you a support tool and a how to upload your entry tool. So what we are asking you to do as part of this regional competition is to record yourself doing a 1 to 3.5 minute video of yourself giving a presentation or speech to camera. This speech or presentation must be on one of the following categories: healthcare and medicine, public health, social care, social action, equity and diversity. So there are so many topics that can fall under these themes, and there are so many titles you could choose from. On one of the next slides, Mariam will talk you through some potential ideas that you could use, but you are more than welcome to use others. As I said, we will be sending you an entry support tool. So this entry support tool will be very similar to the workbooks that you've already seen, but it will give details on step-by-step how to plan out your entry, how to write your speech, and how to best present your speech to the camera. It can be quite difficult setting up a camera and just talking to yourself. It can feel quite unnatural, but those videos will then be given to the judges for the regional competition. If you're on this workshop today, you do not have to enter the competition, but if you would like to, it's definitely an option for you. I believe that you could all do amazingly in this competition with the answers you've given us. And it's really good to boost your confidence. This opportunity complements other opportunities in St. John really well, and it can open up a lot of potential other opportunities for those who'd like to take them. So if you need any support or any advice on these entries, the mentor team, so Fatima, Ellie, Phoebe, Shana and Maddie will all be available to support you, and you can email them at youthspeakingcomp@sga.org.uk, and they will answer with any little question or any big question that you have to make sure that you are confident and comfortable in the entry. So just to kind of confirm that, you fill in the entry form, we send you the support tools, you create your speech, and then you upload your video, and then you've entered. So if I give you over to Mariam, and Mariam can talk you through some of the potential ideas for your video entry.
Great. So if you are thinking about entering in the competition, remember you don't need to do it if you're here today, but if you would like to, one of the things you'll need to think about is to decide what topic you actually want to speak about. So as Chloe said, as long as your topic falls within one of the 5 themes, then you can genuinely do anything you want. So the 5 categories are healthcare and medicine, public health, social care, social action, equity, and diversity. So the point we really want to emphasize, and I hope we've hammered home by now, is that as long as your topic is under one of those categories, then you can genuinely choose what you want. And on the slide, we wanted to give you some suggestions about things you could talk about, so you can see the possibilities available. So within public health, you might want to talk about health inequality and how can we reduce health inequality in the UK and abroad. Under healthcare and medicine, you might want to talk about mental health and what is the best way to improve and support our mental health services. You might want to choose social action and talk about climate change and the climate crisis. You might also want to talk about diverse leadership under equity and diversity. So the possibilities are endless and you really can choose what you want. But as Ellie May said earlier on, the one thing we do encourage you to do is that once you do choose a topic, it might be a good idea to stick to it, but the possibilities are endless. But whatever you choose to make your speech about, I know I speak for everyone on today's call to say that if you do decide to enter the competition, then we really, really look forward to seeing what you choose.
Definitely, and I'd really like to see some people talking about things that they're really passionate about. As St. John cadets, we all have our own little passions, and we all have our own things that really make us excited when they come up, whether that's in other sessions or whether that's when we have an opportunity to share them. I know that I'm really passionate about mental health, so I'd definitely be picking a mental health topic. I'm also really passionate about homelessness, so that might be another thing that I decided to talk about. But the opportunities and the topics and titles that you could come up with are endless. So how to develop within this competition and how the competition can support your development, and a bit more on the competition itself. So the national competition is a chance for you as young people to develop your public speaking skills and to be given feedback about how you can develop even further. It's also a chance for you to advocate for others or express your own passions within those categories. So the regional round, which is the round we're discussing now, is virtual. So you as young people can fill in the entry form and submit your video entries to the judging panel. Then from that, 2 people per region will be selected to enter and compete within the national competition. That national competition will be held in person, and it will be hosted around the weekend of World Speech Day. And World Speech Day is a day that celebrates speech making through live public speaking events across the world. So before this national competition, our mentor team will support you to grow your skills and really develop yourself and make sure that you're confident and comfortable before you compete nationally. So as an opportunity, it's really unique because public speaking is a transferable skill that you can apply to so many elements of your life. It's something that as you go into further education or higher education, or you look to apply for jobs, it really is handy to have in your pocket as a skill that you can just throw out and say, yeah, I can do this. Because as you know, communicating is how we share and how we present ourselves. So the National Youth Speaking Competition is an experience that you can include on your personal statements or your CVs, and it will also support you in other opportunities, both within our organisation and outside of it, whether that's applying for a youth forum, applying for a District Cadet of the Year competition, getting involved in CVQO qualifications, DAV, or other leadership courses. This can really take you anywhere. There's also other opportunities that you could get involved with, like Jack Petchy Speak Out, or there are some TED Talk opportunities in the UK that should be coming back. So all of those opportunities are out there for you, and we would love to support you as you grow through them if they interest you. And then I will give you back to our mentors for you to ask any final Q&A questions. As I said, there's more information coming out via email or via social media. All of the slides and all of the topics are going to be available on the support tool and available on the email that we send out later with the entry form.
Yeah, so on the call tonight, we have myself, Phoebe and Ellie May, and we thought we would give you the space to ask any questions you may have about the competition, about the mentors, anything St. John related, our experience, etc. And so far, the video will be shared afterwards by Chloe. So please do put all your questions in the chat, and I'll try my best to keep up with them and pass them on to the mentors to answer. To get it started, the mentors, I mean, we've seen all the different options there are for the videos and anyone that you could make up. But I mean, Phoebe, do you want to start? What would you necessarily go for first? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Good thing I already thought of this. Well, so the public health and St. John one. So there was an option. What's the idea was what's the biggest public health thing that St. John's contributed to. So I'm really passionate about the support that St. John's provided for the NHS throughout the pandemic. It's something that I wrote my EPQ on, which is an extended project qualification, which I wrote whilst I was in sixth form, basically. And so I'd really love to talk about the support that St. John's provided to the NHS and how it's changed the roles of NHS volunteers for the better and the future of NHS volunteering. So it's quite broad, but it's something that I really am interested in and like to celebrate the work that St. John's done through a speech about it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Anyway?
I just had to I took a photo of this earlier. I just had to go back and look at it. But I like the one in the social care section under nursing, so the challenges that learning disability nurses face and the solutions. I'm currently studying children's nursing at university, but I've got quite a lot of friends who are doing learning disability nursing, and obviously there's quite a lot of different nursing specialities you can study, and I was talking to them and I always thought, we're all kind of on a level playing field, but I was talking to them and one of them had just come off placement, and I didn't realise how you think normal nursing, adult paediatric nursing is quite not difficult, but they have their challenges. But I was speaking to them and I never realised like how difficult the learning disability nursing is, because it's only now coming in that I think quite recently Matt Hancock and some of the MPs in my area in Suffolk have just kind of got that all children in primary school need to be screened for dyslexia or tested for dyslexia and things like that. And I never realised that, like, I went to a school where we were quite lucky and the whole school actually made us get these, but then learning disability nurses, it's not just there are so many, and there are so many people that aren't just in them primary schools, it's like every single age group, and there's so many different learning disabilities, and it's just like my hat goes off to them, like they're amazing. So that's definitely something that is great. So yeah, I like that one.
Yeah,
I actually gave a presentation on learning disability nursing, and something I find really interesting, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's around one learning disability nurse for every 80 individuals with a moderate to severe learning difficulty. So that's the ratio of individuals in the UK, ish. That's not a direct quote of data, but it's around that number. So I think that one's really interesting. What would you choose, Fatima?
I think I would definitely do something EDI related, or perhaps, I mean, more specifically, I'd probably do something on either young carers or mental health, especially young people's mental health, maybe digital mental health. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there's so many different areas you can go into it, and I mean, you can get so much more specific. But yeah, if I check the chat, so one question is, if we do a presentation, can we record ourselves on the PowerPoint recording? So necessarily what I understood from that is, do you kind of want a presentation and a video together? Or, I mean, I can pass on to Chloe Ann. Do you necessarily just want a video, or do you want a presentation as well?
It's up to you whether you do a speech or a presentation. If you are doing a presentation, it's really important that you still have a continuous recording. So what that means is that you cannot stop and start your recording and then stop and start another slide. You need to be continuously speaking throughout the presentation, and your video cannot be edited in any way. Otherwise, it can be unfair to individuals who are doing a speech.
Yep.
And yeah. You can record it in any way you like, is what I'm trying to say, as long as it is from start to finish with no edited pauses.
Yeah, and I did see a question that said, does the topic have to be St. John related? So I'll give that back to you.
So the topic does not have to be St. John related. However, it does have to fit under the 5 themes. So it has to be in some way connected to either healthcare and medicine, public health, equity and inclusion, and diversity, and the other topics are social care and social action. So it has to be related to one of those 5 themes, but the way you connect that is up to you.
I mean, all the questions so far have been for you. So with the video, do we need to have cameras on, and do we need to wear our uniform? So
you do not have to wear uniform. That is up to you. It's whatever you're comfortable in. If you'd like to wear uniform and that makes you feel more confident, then go ahead. If not, up to you. Do you need to have your cameras on? Ideally, yes, as it's a speech to camera. Obviously, if you were talking in front of the judging panel in real time, they would be looking at you. So that can be quite helpful, and you will be marked on things like body language. So if you don't have your camera on, then that cannot be assessed.
Yeah. So please do keep your questions coming in. It doesn't just have to be about the competition itself. It can be about any of our experiences of public speaking, any tips or questions you may have. I guess to keep us going, for the mentors, what would be your main tip or your go-to method when it comes to public speaking? I mean, should we start with Ellie this time?
My biggest tip is making sure you practice. So I think when I keep talking about the exact same presentation, but it was like my first like really big one. So a bit of context, like, so with the Young Ambassador Award that I took part in, the first two parts of the presentation were online. So the district competition was online, and then the national competition was online. And in my head, when I flew out to Greece for the European final, and in my head it was still online. Like, I hadn't really comprehended that this was going to be in front of people. And I was like, I got there and I'd done my practice presentation, which was in front of 3 people. And I was like, this isn't too bad, that's fine. And then the actual one was at a closing ceremony of the event, and that was 600 people. And I remember standing there and I was just like, right, okay. When I practiced this, it wasn't like that. But so I think making sure you practice, and also how to end a presentation. If you've seen the video, it is so, I watch it, I can't watch it now because I cringe at it every time. But I kind of done my presentation. We had to do a 15-minute presentation. I done my presentation, and right at the end I was like, and yeah, that's it, thanks, and just handed the microphone over. And I was like, oh, I should have, like, I look back now and I should have been like, oh, thank you so much for listening, if you've got any questions, blah blah. And it is like, I watch it back and I'm like, oh, I really don't like that I did that. So like my biggest tip is like how to fit your conclusion and your like how to end it and hand over, like practice that, because I look back at this and just cringe. So that's a really big one as well.
Yeah, I mean, Phoebe, do you have a different tip?
Yeah, of course. I'll add one of the questions to this same. I'll add it together. One of the questions that's just come in was, what's been your best speaking experience? So I'll link it to my tip because my tip goes along with it. I've probably the same thing that I keep talking about. Ellie Mae keeps talking about the same opportunity that she was really excited by, and I keep talking about the same one that really excited me. But when I was speaking in South Africa at the international cadet competitions, we were speaking about a topic that we'd practiced for months. We knew our presentation. We thought we didn't learn it as a script, but we thought we knew it sort of word for word in the way we wanted to say it. We practiced it so many times. And so we didn't have a lot of information on our cue cards. And I really wish I'd had more information on my cue cards. So not like the whole text or anything like that, but I've learned since then. My big tip is to bullet point sort of when you move on from a sort of a thought or a train of thought in your speech, and a few points underneath that you were going to include in it. Because I definitely had to come back to bits and skip over bits, and it was the best experience ever because I got to speak about something I was really passionate about, how diabetes is becoming a global problem due to fast food and all the different things that relate to it. I won't go into the presentation now, but I was really enjoying myself, getting into full flow. I was throwing this globe around the stage, pointing at different countries and talking about the impact on the different countries I was pointing at. But I got so into it that I forgot where I was sometimes, and we all did it. I was speaking in a team. So yeah, my biggest tip alongside that is just to have a few points on cue cards, because if you don't need them, that's brilliant. At the end of the day, if you know it and you can go off track with what you're really happy with and what you're confident that you've practiced, that's amazing. But knowing you have them there, if you just lose your train of thought sometimes, to have a quick look down at is really reassuring sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I've just seen a question that's come in that's really interesting. It says, is there a way to stimulate or keep your listener more interested? I think for me, one way, which we've already mentioned in this workshop, is don't have all your information on the slides. So have your main key points on the slides, and that way they're listening in because you're going into more details, or you're giving anecdotes, which may be like a story that relates, for example, so do with the speeches. Also your tone, like you said, keep changing your tone. Also be quite interactive if you can. So if there's opportunities for you to ask your audience questions, do that. It helps engage everyone. Everyone knows that, for example, Q&A is coming at the end, etc. But yeah, I mean, Chloe-Anne, is there any specific tip that we haven't already mentioned that is really important to you?
So as a public speaker myself, I tend to start my presentations in the same way. So I like to start my presentations with a short sentence. We talked about how sentence structure could be important earlier. Then my way of engaging my audience is by starting with that short sentence structure. So for example, I started a speech with a single word, and that was lost. So I did a presentation on the refugee and migrant crisis when I was in year 11, and I started off with the word lost. None of my audience knew my topic. None of my audience had any inkling, so they were all really engaged as to why I'd told them lost. I then finished off my presentation saying, imagine how it would feel to have lost everything and to see people who have everything you've dreamed of give you nothing. So I linked my beginning to my end, and that kind of kept my audience following my story with me.
Yeah, I mean, that's really engaging. I use that tip a lot as well. But thank you for all the questions. Please do keep having please keep sending them into our inbox, and one of the mentors will always get back to you as soon as we can. But I'll pass it back to you now, Chloe-Anne.
That's brilliant. So as Fatima said, if you do have any more questions for the mentors, or you feel as though you need any advice or support, you have any questions about entering to the competition, then there will be another email coming out to you and information on social media about this opportunity. And all of the information will be detailed there. So you can ask us at any time any questions that you have, and we will support you the best that we can. I hope that you are all really feeling good about yourselves, and you should all be really proud of yourselves for joining in today. And hopefully we will see some amazing entries coming from you all soon. Good luck, everyone, and I hope you had a lovely time at this workshop.
I'm just going to pop the email address for the team in the chat. So if you want to get in touch with any of the mentors whilst you're writing your speeches, the mentor support is there for you leading up to the regional rounds. If you want just, to run over your idea with a mentor, or if you have any questions about the competition, please do have a look in the chat in a second once I've popped that in, or if anyone else has got it right now, you can pop it in for me.